What's up, guys? It's Frozen. Welcome to the Dragon Ball Z Game Retrospective series, a series where we're going to be playing through all of the Dragon Ball Z games that dropped in the US and maybe some of the Japanese exclusive titles if they're important enough to get a video. We'll see. But yeah, every video will not be like this. I won't be lumping every series into one video, but shit like this where it's not too much to talk about, we'll kind of wrap this all up in one video so it's not taking up too much space on the channel. So if you like what you see, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with your friends. Without further ado, let's get into it.
You don't fuck with Necro.
Welcome to the first official episode of the Dragon Ball Z Game Retrospective series. Today we're going to be talking about the Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku series, which dropped on the Game Boy Advance in the early 2000s, starting with Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 1 that released on May 14th, 2002. Each game in the series covers up to a very specific point in Z, so this game covers from the beginning all the way to the end of the Frieza saga. In terms of presentation, I think the game looks alright for an early 2000s sprite game. It goes for more of a chibi art style for all of the characters, which I'm not too sure how that would hold up like nowadays, but as a kid I thought the game looked fine. But anyway, the game starts you off on Master Roshi's Island where you can't move on until you walk around and talk to everybody and then complete Master Roshi's side quest, which is walk around and finding all of his dirty magazines, which are for some reason hidden all around his island. And this pretty much sums up the structure of the entire game. They put you in a semi-open area where you gotta walk around and complete all the side quests, and then you move on to the next major event. And most of these side quests will be given out by random villagers or random people you find in the city. I think Master Roshi is the only notable character from the series who actually gives you a side. Some of these side quests are based off a pillar from an anime, like when Goku fell off a snake way and had to find his way back up. But most of them are based around random fetch quests, like finding random kid number 32 or random lost item number 45. And you know, a mildly repetitive structure could be forgiven for a Game Boy Advance game, but then you have the game's biggest fuck up of them all, the combat. The combat in this game can be summed up like this: walk around and spam key blasts. Melee doesn't become super useful until a little bit later in the game when you unlock Solar Flare. Then the combat becomes walk around, spam Solar Flare, and then get you some hits in and get back. Oh, speaking of Solar Flare, you have 3 special moves in this game: Key Blast, self-explanatory, Kamehameha, also self-explanatory, and Solar Flare, which stuns an opponent for varying amounts of times depending on how much you charge it up. Now, don't get me wrong, the game is more than beatable without spamming Solar Flare, but let me tell you something, it makes beating this game a lot easier. Fighting NPCs and especially bosses become a lot easier. We ain't gotta worry about getting one shot by their random attacks that hit faster than light and do way more damage than you do. And I forgot about the flight ability that's mainly used to fly across bodies of waters and navigate mountains, but I use it to move around so I can hit more people with Solar Flare so I can whoop their ass a little bit more. But even if you don't spam Solar Flare, fighting against enemies and especially bosses in this game is the most repetitive thing ever, because each enemy in this game is way faster than you and they hit way harder than you. Since Goku only has this 1-2 hit combo that has no hit stun, and he walks around at the speed of a snail for the entire game, but you can level up at some point in the game. When you complete a major milestone in the game, his speed levels up a little bit, but he's still a lot slower than he should be, and his punches still never get any hits done. So it's pretty much a game of who can hit each other more first, but the other enemies do way more damage than you do. Thankfully, I was playing this game on an emulator, a Game Boy Advance that let me use save states and can rewind. So this game wasn't that bad to beat this time around, but I beat this game without emulator features multiple times. I beat it on actual hardware multiple times. And this game is an actual slog to get through because this game requires you to do a lot of grinding and a lot of walking around, and Goku moves at the pace of a damn snail. So if you do plan on playing this game without emulator features on an actual Game Boy Advance, be ready to lose a lot of progress, because bosses in this game, and regular enemies for that matter, hit about as hard as Dark Souls bosses and will kill you just as fast. So be ready to lose a lot of fucking data going through this shit. Speaking of death, this game has a few healing items to help you avoid it. You have herbs and you have sensu beans. If you're in a spot where you can't find any healing items or there's only a few healing items on the ground, walk away from the area and then come back. The healing items respawn every time you enter a new area, so you pretty much have an infinite amount of them, even though you can only hold 7. But finally, after finding all the lost kids, finding all the lost items, fighting the Saiyans, fighting demons in hell, going through this annoying ass fucking temple, you finally get the Frieza, which is the same as every fucking boss fight in this game. You spam Solar Flare or you spam Key Blast until he is dead. And that's the end of Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 1. So the ranking system for this series is going to be a bit unconventional but fitting for the series at the same time. We're going to be rating games out of 7 this time. You know, like the 7 Dragon Balls. But anyway, I'm giving Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 1 2 Dragon Balls out of 7. The next game in the series is Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 2. It dropped on the Game Boy Advance on June 17, 2003. Being the second game in the series, it covers from the end of the Frieza saga all the way up to the end of the Cell. This game is probably the most nostalgic game in the series for me because it's the first one I played, but you can just see off rip that this game is a major improvement over the first game in pretty much every way. You start this game out as Kid Future Trunks, and that fixes 2 of the first game's problems almost immediately because 1, you can only play as Goku in the first game, and 2, since you can only play as Goku, they have to change or omit a few of the scenes from Z. Like in the game, you have to fight all 5 forms of Frieza as Goku, and we all know that that didn't happen in the anime. But in this game, you have 5 playable characters: Goku, Piccolo, Vegeta, Trunks, and Gohan, all unlockable at certain points in the game and not in that order. Another improvement this game has over the first one is the ability to run. You just double tap any direction on the D-pad and you just take off sprint in that direction. This addition alone improved the flow of the game so much. Everything just flows together better, just overall feels smoother. This also helped a lot with the combat, making it feel less like a high stakes game of tag and more like a Diablo-esque dungeon crawler. This game also adds hit stun and knockback to pretty much every attack in the game, which means you don't have to rely on spamming Ki Blast and 1 solar flare like you did in the first game. That and the addition of more playable characters just help make this game feel a lot more fun and less repetitive overall. Speaking of multiple playable characters, each character in this game get 3 unique attacks. Gohan has Ki Blast, Masenko, and Kamehameha. Piccolo has Ki Blast, Special Beam Cannon, and Scatter Shot. Trunks has Ki Blast, Burning Attack, which is a stun attack like Solar Flare from the first game, and Shining Slash. Vegeta has Ki Blast, Big Bang Attack, and Energy Fist. Goku has Spirit Bomb, Ki Blast, and Kamehameha. And unlike the first game, every attack has varying forms of usefulness, so you won't spend the entire game spamming 1 attack. Next, let's talk about where this game improved the most over the first one besides from combat: structure. Unlike the first game, where the side quests consist of finding lost Namekians or planting trees for Namekians or finding lost kids and shit like that, this game has side quests that more in line fit with the story of Dragon Ball, like you're destroying Drill's generator, for example, so they don't really feel out of place in the game. There's also less side quests to do in general, like there's about 1 in between every major story event, but this game also locks you behind color-coded doors which are character specific and you can only get through once whatever character is specified gets up to a certain level. I forgot to mention that this game added charge attacks for each of the playable characters. Most of the characters you have to go to Master Roshi to unlock them, but once I think Goku and Trunks are the only 2 characters that they come automatically unlocked for, so you don't gotta worry about doing any of the extra stuff. But anyway, back to the structure. Those color-coded gates that I mentioned may pose a problem to those of you that don't like grinding out there, but I can tell you that grinding in this game does not really take too long. You go to an area with high enough level characters or like high enough level enemies, you can level up most of your characters in about 15-20 minutes, and I'm not talking per character. Like 15 or 20 minutes, you should have all of your characters up to the level where they should be able to help you out. Also, when you get a character later in the game, they come pre-level, so you have to level up every character from 0. Also gotta throw a shout out to a slightly less important improvement: the music. Most of the music in this game are like 16-bit remixes of some of the themes from Dragon Ball, and there's a lot of original tracks here too, bro. The music fits so well here, bro. Not saying that the Legacy of Goku 1 didn't have some decent music in there, but most of the music was some of those LeBron beats. So y'all know the beats I'm talking about, the one on the meme where he bobbing his head and it be that cartoon-ass trumpet music playing. Yes, a lot of that shit in Legacy of Goku 1 too. But anyway, they also get rid of the flight mechanic from Legacy of Goku 1 and replace it with these launch pads to move you from open area to open area. I do kind of miss it a little bit. I thought it was fun being able to explore bigger versions of these open areas, but I also like the more compact and concise size of the open world maps now, so I'm fine with the change. In Legacy of Goku 1, there was a few parts of the game where you couldn't go back to that area once you beat it, or it was a very long walk to get back there. They kind of fixed this problem in this game with this new open world map area that allows you to go back and visit every area that you've already been to in the game. This game also changes the way you heal. Instead of going to a menu and picking between herbs and senzu beans like you did in the first game, healing items now spawn on the open map from destroying rocks and enemies. Food items restore health, and then there's these orbs that restore your ki. The bigger the orb or the bigger the food item that you get restores more health and ki. I know I talked a lot about this game's improvements, but there are flaws like the leveling up system. I know that for somebody like me who's been playing the game since I was little and beat the game multiple times, I have these set paths where I can level up pretty quick and get that out of the way. But for people who don't have that knowledge or just new to the game in general, that can be a bit of a hindrance. There's also annoying ass missions like that one mission where you gotta destroy Dr. Jiro's generators. And you have to move these eggs of this dinosaur who pretty much made the generator her nest, and you cannot get hit once while doing that. If you get hit once while you're moving these eggs, they will break and you got to go back and pick them up all over again. And you also cannot attack enemies while you're doing this. The best way to do this is to go Super Saiyan before you pick up the eggs, because you cannot do this once you pick them up. So go Super Saiyan before you pick up the eggs and then start moving them. It's still going to take you a bit, but you'll get it eventually. And speaking of Super Saiyan, this game added a new transformation mechanic. Each of the Saiyans have Super Saiyan and Piccolo has Super Namekian. The power-ups that they give are pretty similar to what they do in the show. With Super Saiyan, you hit harder and move faster. With Super Namekian, you also get both of those boosts, but Piccolo also passively regenerates health over time. The way these transformations work is that there are a little yellow bar right next to your character's icon, and when that bar is full, you have access to the form, and when it runs out, you can't use the form, and there's a cooldown, and when it fills back up, then you can use it and all that good shit, etc. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the Legacy of Goku 2. So with all things considered, the ups and the downs, the good and the bad, this is definitely a major improvement over the first game, which is I'm not really sure how they got a sequel. But you know how we do. We got to score the game now at the end. So I think I'm going to give this game 3.5 Dragon Balls out of 7. Now we're finally at the final game in the series, Dragon Ball Z Buu's Fury, releasing on the Game Boy Advance on September 14, 2004. I know this game isn't called Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 3, but look at this gameplay and tell me that this is not Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 3. Being the last game in the series, this game covers from the end of the Cell Saga all the way up to the Majin Buu Saga. This time around, the only major changes to the combat were the addition of a block button and the subtraction of the charge attacks from Legacy of Goku 2. Instead of adding to the combat mechanics, this game decided to fully embrace its RPG nature by adding armor and fully upgradable character stats like strength, speed, and all that good shit. Most armor in this game can be found by getting random drops from defeating enemies, and the other armor in this game can be found by shops. Yeah, they finally added shops to one of these games. Enemies now drop Zeni, which can be used to buy armor, and healing items that now work more like they did in Legacy of Goku 1. You now find the same items that you could find on Legacy of Goku 2, but now in order to use them, you gotta use them from your menu. They still work pretty much the same way they do in Legacy of Goku 2, except for this time around, instead of using random key orbs to get energy back, you use drinks, and Senzu Beans heal both. Speaking of Senzu Beans, this game has a pretty much infinite Senzu Bean glitch, and it's pretty early on in the game too. Right after Videl gets cooked by Spopovich, and they send Goku to go get a Senzu Bean for her, just eat that fucking Senzu Bean, and then you have over 200 Senzu Beans for the rest of the game. And funnily enough, until this playthrough, I didn't know anything about that glitch. Shout out my boy Z Blade YT, I'm gonna leave a link in the description below for him. He's the one who told me about the glitch. Never knew anything about it, crazy. But I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. If y'all use the armor system and the stat system in this game right, you will not need those 200 and something Senzu Beans. Usually when I play this game, I always take it pretty chill, but this time, since I was playing all 3 games back to back, I was trying to beat these games as quick as possible, so I pretty much pushed what I can do with the armor and items in this game to the edge pretty much. And I realized just how easy that can make the game. This game has the same hurdle as Legacy of Goku 2. They have these character gates where you have to get a character to a specific level before you can get through. But this game tries to alleviate that issue with these 2 items that they add into the game, well, these 2 pieces of armor rather. Weighted armor and weighted boots. You start off with 2 tons for each, but then as the game goes on, you unlock heavier pieces of armor. And what these pieces of armor do is that they decrease your speed, but they increase the amount of XP that you get. And the higher the weight of the armor, the more XP you get and the slower that you move. But here's the issue with that. If you go Super Saiyan, you can pretty much alleviate altogether the speed decrease, and I think you get a little bit too much of an XP boost. Now here's why this is a gift and a curse, because this could pretty much take this game to being the easiest game in the series. And I kind of think it's true even without that, but this just makes it way more apparent how easy this game can be. If you don't abuse this, I think you can still have a good time with it. But in my case, I was trying to beat the game as fast as possible, so I went ahead and did it anyway. And I still had a pretty decent time with it. I still think this is the best game in the series, the most fun game at the very least. It's a toss-up between this one and Legacy of Goku 2, but that's up to you to decide. This game also changed the way the transformations work, well, at least in terms of ki consumption. They still work pretty much the same way as they did in Legacy of Goku 2. You know, they have a cooldown depending on the bar that's next to your character's icon, but this time they don't subtract away from the main ki supply. It makes a whole new meter, and when that meter depletes, that's when you end Super Saiyan. And here's what makes this change a good and a bad thing. In Legacy of Goku 2, when you load up, it fully replenishes your character's HP and ki. On this game, it does the same thing, but it does not apply for the transformed state that you are in. So if you want to keep that state going without waiting for the cooldown, you can go use your ki consumption items like the beverages that you get to refill your ki. And you can pretty much stay in Super Saiyan indefinitely as long as you have these items. You know, I just realized that I talked about the transformations without talking about what characters are playable in this game. So in this game, you have Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Trunks, and Goten. They excluded Piccolo this time, unfortunately, but they did add fusions. So in this game, you can fuse into Gotenks, which is unlockable via the story, Vegito and Gogeta. You get to play as them both once during the story, but to actually unlock them and use them whenever you want, you got to get this game collectibles. The Z exhibits and the Hercule exhibits. You can find most of them scattered throughout the world and doing specific challenges to get them, but you collect all those, take them back to where they need to be, and then you unlock those characters. I unfortunately did not do it on this playthrough because, again, I'm playing this just to get footage, and I have footage of all these characters, and I already have done that multiple times before, so I didn't feel like I had to do it again. Another cool thing this game does is it try to tie certain movies into the canon, like the Broly movie and the Fusion Reborn movie. In this game's versions of events, the Fusion Reborn movie happens when Goku comes back from Otherworld after he goes Super Saiyan 3 and Vegeta dies from fighting Majin Buu. They both meet up in hell, and then those events play out pretty much the same way that you see him in the movie. And as for Broly, there's this section where you gotta look for the Dragon Balls as Goten and Trunks, and he's there randomly in some village, kind of like the plot of the second Broly movie. So yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about this game. Probably the best game in the series, but after you talked about the other two, there's not much left to say about this game because it pretty much takes the best aspects of the first two games and make them pretty fucking good, albeit a bit too easy, but it's still a fun time to be had there. So I think on the scale, I'm gonna give this game 4 Dragon Balls out of 7. So yeah, that does it for the Legacy of Goku series. Not sure what games I'm gonna do next. I'm probably gonna do a singular game video next time because I don't want to keep lumping all these into one video. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. If you like what you saw, subscribe. I don't only do reviews. This is also my first time like writing out a script to doing formal reviews. So if I sound a little stiff in certain parts, that's why. But thank y'all for watching. See y'all in the next one. Frozen out. Peace.